If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. We were out last week, but we're here with vigor and focus. And I think the first thing on your suggestion for pre-podcast meeting is let's look at the first 100 days of Donald J. Trump, and I'll just throw it off to you first.
Yeah, it's been an interesting 100 days to say the least. I do love Carolyn Levitt was talking about some trade deals, and she said we're working on Trump time, and I think that really sums it up because more has happened in the last 100 days than happened in the last 4 years.
Yes, let me just interject one thing about that. Again, Trump time, I think that's a great point. And all I'll say on that to kind of support that is that there was analysis done. We'll talk about the state of the Democratic Party later in the podcast. But there was a editorial about how with what Trump has done and the speed and the vigor and the focus basically have left the Dems scrambling and back foot, playing on the back feet. And I think that makes all the sense in the world because they're part of, they are the basically apparatus and part of their whole lives are essentially been in politics. They don't know business time. So I'll just interject that. And your thoughts on that, by the way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
Private sector
right.
time. How do you like that?
Yeah, things move a lot faster in the private sector than they do in politics. Politics is mostly about stalling and keeping the status quo. And Trump just upended that. So we've got 100 days. Gas prices have come down. Democrats said there was nothing they could do about that. Egg prices and inflation are coming down. The Democrats said there was nothing they could do about that.
Correct, sir.
The border is secure.
Shut down.
Essentially shut down. There's still a couple people coming over, but it's like less have come over in the last 100 days than came over in a week under the Biden administration. Now, remember,
without question,
Biden said there was no way to do that without new legislation and new funding. And yet Trump managed to do it pretty quickly without either one of those.
Wasn't that always an excuse, though? Because they wanted the spigot kept turned on for various reasons. They knew it was BS, but obviously it was BS. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that out. It was all executive actions, and he could have reversed those or tweaked them, but they chose not to. So doesn't it summarize, or isn't it basically is a microcosm of the entire Biden presidency? Bullshit on steroids and inaction.
It pretty much is. I mean, all they were doing for the last 4 years was kicking the can down the road and saying, "Oh, well, you can do that, and we can't do that. We can't do that." They were always nobody seemed to want to actually do their job,
because
and
there was
now,
no one at the helm though to
well,
do
no,
the
but
job.
Congress didn't want to do their job either. There were
Agreed.
certain things that should have been done through Congress that Biden tried to do through executive order. And of course, most of them were thrown out by the courts because he didn't have the power to do them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and okay, so we have this in 100 days. We also have, look at the. You talk about the domestic front. You have to include the stock market, which is down. I feel, and we'll have the doctor comment on this. I think it's a tempest in a teapot. I see. Actually, I see it going up over the next 2 months. It could skyrocket if a couple big deals happen. How do you like that? And then that's all the Dems have. It's a one-trick pony right now. If if
Yeah,
if if Trump pulls off the embargoes, then it's, I'm sorry to say, check please.
actually,
Check please.
I don't even think it matters.
I do. But go ahead.
What's going on in the stock market is excessive volatility due to uncertainty. People don't know
Yes.
what's going on. If Trump manages to get trade deals, and we've already got 18 deals on the table with various countries, then yeah, the stock market is going to start going up again. However, if Trump doesn't get the trade deals and the trade war goes away or stabilizes even without the deals, the volatility is going to go away, the uncertainty is going to go away, the stock market's going to go up anyway.
Yes, but let me interject one thing. Not just wishful thinking. I think deals will be done.
Oh,
They will be
absolutely.
done, and it shows the ineptitude of previous Republican and Democratic administrations. They Because they never knew anything about business. Okay, they've always been swamp creatures. They have no idea how things really work. We have the leverage. We have the party. We are the country club that everyone wants to get into. Use some of the, but we gave it away with no strings attached. Not very bright. Your
No,
thoughts?
not very bright, but I think the problem is much more basic than that. Previous administrations always tried to deal with other countries using the carrot. Oh, we'll give you more money. We'll provide this to you. We'll do this for you. And for the last 50 years, we haven't
70.
gotten anybody anywhere doing that.
Well, let me interject one thing. Giving someone is the easy way out. Okay, and
Right.
that's what they chose. I mean, yeah, I want you to do something, Dr. Lopkin. So, yeah, I'll polish your car, I'll mow your lawn. But when you call someone on the carpet, it's a completely different situation. And also, I think there's a little bit of post World War II delusion going on. Okay, allies are allies, but they also have their best interest. Okay, and Europe has been ripping us off. China has been taking us to the cleaners. Either we do it is and was unsustainable unless you just want to deindustrialize. And by the way, another brainiac, Janet Yellen, she says it's unrealistic to think about bringing back manufacturing. Yeah, that was exactly the right person for that job. No question. A
Well,
genius.
remember back in 2015, Obama said, there was no magic wand that they could wave to start interest, the GDP going up and the economy turning around. There was no magic wand, and Trump came in on his first term and essentially did it quickly.
Yes. Also, Obama. Just to interject one thing about that, you are correct on the GDP and other situations he articulated in terms of economic. But he also talked about manufacturing, and that to me is very interesting. Either they don't give a shit or they don't have the brains to understand manufacturing or understand the importance of having at least a semblance of a manufacturing economy. And they don't even understand technology with robotics and AI. There's no reason why you can't manufacture in America. But it shows you the kind of leadership or lack thereof, especially with Biden. And we
Well,
talked about
I
it.
mean,
Go ahead.
there was no leadership with Biden, but I think the basic problem is what I started alluding to. They were all trying to use the carrot. Trump
Yes, I agree.
decided, you know what? We're going to use the stick. And guess what? Countries are coming to the table. They're going, oh, we can't just keep taking anymore.
Yes, I think that's true with economic issues. I also think it's true with NATO. I think we got to wean some of these European countries off the U.S. nipple and have them step up to the plate. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be done. And I believe that with the speed of Trump's speed, or let's just say private sector speed, aren't the Democrats really just blown away at this point in time? It could turn around, but the ship, the sail has broken, the mast has broken on this sailboat right now.
Yeah, right now the party is rudderless. I think the biggest problem is that they do not have a leader. And you've heard Democrats say this over and over again, that they don't have anybody at the helm, they don't have a leader. And I heard an analysis yesterday that was actually brilliant because they were talking about Nancy Pelosi. And
Mm-hmm.
when Pelosi was in charge, every week she would pull the party together and go, this is what's happening Monday, this is what's happening Tuesday, this is what we've got coming up next week. You're going to go on this Sunday show, you're going to do this interview, these are your talking points. And everybody knew if they didn't fall in line, their committee appointments could be removed. They could be sentenced to the wilderness in terms of the party. Pelosi is no longer in charge. Hakeem Jeffries is ostensibly in charge,
A
and
Mensa candidate, by the way. A
right,
Mensa
and
candidate.
he does not have that gravitas. He doesn't have the political acumen that Pelosi had.
Nope.
He doesn't have the authority to actually start pulling people from committee assignments. So
100%.
they're all running in different directions. They have no real leadership. And that's going to be a bigger problem, I think, than they're anticipating, because take a look at government workers. Yes, you've got the diehard deep staters, which are trying to leak things to the media and make up news like, oh, these people are fighting and these people are fighting. But if you take a look at the rank and file, military, recruitment is up across the board. Every area of the military, recruitment is up. Border Patrol, morale is through the roof. They're going crazy. They're back doing their job. On local areas, the police morale is up because Trump is supporting them. You can't.
Okay.
I mean, the police.
But what? How about that? Well, you need to address the made-up crises with the so-called unsecured texting or whatever. I think that's a tempest in a teapot. I don't think anyone gives a shit. No one gives a shit.
Most people don't care.
All people.
Nobody has yet to actually prove that there was any classified information discussed in these conversations. And quite frankly, the fact that they're on Signal is actually incredibly secure. It's actually one of the most secure apps out there. So anybody who's on there, yes, there was a mistake that somebody invited the Atlantic reporter. And quite frankly, I'm not completely convinced that was a mistake. I think somebody within the administration who was part of the deep state probably leaked that. But the fact of the matter is, nothing happened. You know, the Atlantic made a big deal. Oh, all of these plans were revealed to me. It's like, well, great, but guess what? The Houthis still were caught flat-footed. They still got the crap bombed out of them.
Yes, I think it's a tempest in a teapot. I think it shows desperation. just no talking points, and they're not resonating. It's really interesting because no matter what, going back to, I would say, probably God, the 60s, I would think, Dems always had the youth vote. That has changed. Do you know what they are? They're the Neil Young party now. Okay, irrelevancy and old age. The Dems, 18 to 29 demographic, huge demographic in terms of, excuse me, importance. There used to be only 3 years ago 42% approval of the Democratic Party or affiliation with the Democratic Party, down to 23. That's a 20-point gap. That's
Yeah, and
should be troubling to anyone. And
it's
it's the
not.
reverse. And the Republicans, who used to be the country club, boring stiffs, now have captured the young people. You go on campus, except for Ivy League nutcase schools, but a real campus, okay, like University of, whatever of Wisconsin or something, they're probably, I don't know, 70% Republican.
Yeah, and it's not just young people. Take a look at what's been going on with the tariff war. The unions are backing Trump, not the union leadership, of course, because they're still in the pockets of the Democrats. But the
Hmm.
union members have come out overwhelmingly saying, yes, they support the tariffs, they're supporting Trump, because Trump is actually the first president in probably at least 40 years, if not more, that
Easily.
has done anything for the unions.
Oh yeah, no, and it's really troubling. Just like we talk about
Or
Jews
actually,
supporting the Dem.
let me rephrase that. It's not that Trump is the first one to do anything for the unions. He's the first one to do anything for the workers.
Yes, no question about it. But isn't it interesting we talk about how stupid Jews have to be to vote Democratic? Well, look at the 50, 60-year history, starting with, well, not starting, sandwiched with NAFTA. Any rank and file, basically, Democrats weren't for you. They were for getting rid. They're the globalists. They're the antithesis. I actually think leadership. How do you like this, Dr. Lopkin? Union leadership will soon be replaced with Republican leaning people. I think that ship is going to sail as well.
It's very possible because union members, with the exception of the deep blue states, the Northeast, New York, California, and Illinois, union members in basically all of the other states have flipped. And that was actually
Yes.
one of the things that gave Trump the election, was that union membership supported him despite what union leaders were saying.
Yeah, and also you got to look at demographic and geographic shifting. Blue states are bleeding populace, and red states are picking it up. So even though, yes, if you look at the net outcome, it's definitely going to be gravitating towards the GOP. That is rank and file and leadership of unions, and deservingly so. When you just acquiesce and say, "Oh, we can never be a manufacturing country," you're talking about Davos. You're talking about globalist scum that don't believe in nationalism. They just believe in Wall Street and lining their own greedy pockets. And that's what I really think of them. How do you like that?
Yeah, well, I
Speaking,
think there's
go ahead.
there's there's also another problem when they say, "Oh, we can't do manufacturing." They're still envisioning manufacturing as manufacturing from the 1920s. It's, people doing repetitive work over and over again. It's like that is not what manufacturing is anymore. Manufacturing is robotics, manufacturing is AI. I have actually been in some pharmaceutical manufacturing plants here in Connecticut that these are spotless. There are, it's run by a few people, but most of it is automation. So you can bring back manufacturing. You're not going to bring back as many manufacturing jobs as people seem to think, because automation is going to be taking care of most of it. But you are going to create an entire new classification of jobs, because every automation has to be programmed, every robot needs to be maintained. That is going
Okay,
to be
I
new
understood.
jobs.
Dr. Lopkin understood. You know that, I know that, but it gets back to our original thesis. Why don't the Democrats know that? Because they've never been in the private sector. They still, I agree with you. They still
Yeah.
think it's 1951. Oh yeah, they think it's still Henry Ford. Of course those jobs aren't coming. They're right about that, but they don't know what the hell they don't even know what AI is. How do you like that? I'm dead
No, I
serious.
mean,
They think
I
it's a
rem-
movie by Steven Spielberg. I think it came out in the 1985 or something like that. Whatever. Go
no,
ahead,
I
Dr.
I
Lopkins.
very clearly remember some of the testimony from Mark Zuckerberg when he was called in front of the Senate subcommittee.
Oh God, that was classic. Yeah.
And I it looked like a bunch of senior citizens asking their grandchild for tech support. They obviously did not understand technology. They did not understand social media. And to be fair, that's a big reason that the left has hijacked the Democratic Party because you've got folks like AOC that actually understand social media.
One of the few things she does understand. But you are 100% correct about that. That was actually must see TV. I mean, it was like, hey, I have a dial up modem and it's not working. Could you help me out with that? It's whoa, welcome to the 1990s. Yep, they were on top of things. But speaking of AOC, we talk about the fate of the Democratic Party. We used to kid around. She is the leader of the Democratic Party. I hate to burst your bubble, Lopkin,
Well,
but it's true. Her and Bernie are going on the tour of victory. He's passing his self-hating Jew torch to AOC, and she looks like she's poised to take Schumer's job, who's in a shitload of trouble. Your thoughts?
well, I think she wants to run against Schumer. I don't honestly see her having a chance because you're going to essentially see Schumer and AOC split the vote in New York City. Well, guess what? The rest of the state, they're not voting for either one of them.
Yeah, but
And
hold on. No, they're going to primary. So I think
but
AOC can take him out. Yes, and I think your point about the actual senatorial election, I think you could very well have a Republican flip.
yeah, you're not going to see Staten Island, Long Island,
No,
upstate New York, central New York. These
any
areas
Jew with a
are
brain.
these areas are not voting for AOC. There's a good possibility she may lose a good part of the city. All Schumer has to do is point out how many jobs she costs the city and the condition of her home district.
I still say she could probably she has a good chance of beating Schumer. She has very little chance of winning a general senatorial or statewide senatorial election. And I actually, how do you like this? Lee Zeldin will run against her or Chucky. Put that in your Rolodex.
I don't know about that. I think Lee Zeldin is holding out for the governor's race again. But
Either okay, I'll
we'll
give you that one. I'll give you that one.
but
But you wouldn't be
we'll
surprised,
see.
would you?
No, it wouldn't surprise me. There's also been talk that Elisa Stefanik may run for governor. If she decides to run for governor, then yeah, I think Zeldin will go for Schumer's seat.
Actually, how do you like that one? I think it should flip. I think she should challenge a senatorial. She would. They're both Jewish, but she would mop the floor with AOC, the anti-Semite.
Oh, absolutely. I
Goodbye. Check,
I
please.
would I would rather see Zeldin run again for governor and take the governor's seat,
A
and
100% agreed.
Stefanik take Schumer's seat.
And Jenny, speaking about flipping, it's very interesting. I believe, and I actually thought this. I don't know if I talked about it with you, but Dershowitz should have done a pro. He doesn't need it because he won anyway. But I think he should have done a pro-Trump ad because I actually think he's a Republican now, and I'm dead serious about that. He was actually talking about the Ivy League and Harvard in particular, and he says they used to be the beacon of intellectualism and legal practice, and now they produce, I think he said, like idiots like Schiff, Raskin, and Warren. That's a pretty scathing rebuke. doctor.
Well, when you hire Lori Lightfoot and Captain Neckfat to be your professors, of
Oh
course you're
God,
not going to be turning out the cream of the
the
crop
genius.
of students. You know, it's
Oh, and also you got to look at what Maxine Gay or whatever her. I don't remember her first name. She, I think it's hysterical because you could have a congressional hearing, like you could go back in time to 1950. President of Harvard would be this blue blood guy with a bow tie, smoking a pipe, very erudite. Then you had what Maxine Gay or whatever. Oh my God! I still crack up. Is it against the Harvard doctrine to call for the extermination of Jews? Oh no, only if it's acted upon.
yeah,
That's classic. That is classic. Unbelievable. But yes, that's how I think these, and we talked about this before, and I've heard it not just from you, but from other people that are in the business world that corporations aren't really flocking all that much for Ivy Leaguers. They'd rather go to good schools, good state schools in particular, and get a solid and intelligent young person, not an indoctrinated lunatic.
no, you're seeing the Ivy League. If you list an Ivy League college on your resume, you better be prepared to defend that in an interview because that does not carry any weight anymore. You might as well have gone to a community college for all the weight it carries.
Okay,
And the
now I need to interject this. I need to interject. So you're very close to this, just so our listeners know this is not just posturing. You really believe, you talk to people all the time, every day, is what you're saying is that it's not something that's going to get you in the door, but possibly prevent you from entering the door. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. I know numerous companies, and not just small businesses, but larger ones as well, that they're taking a look at resumes, and we're talking law firms, we're talking Wall Street firms, we're talking, industries that used to get 99% of their people from the Ivy League. They're now looking at these resumes and going, oh, Columbia, forget it. We don't want them. Oh, Harvard, forget it. We don't want them. Because they're looking at these folks as they can't get along with people. They're not being taught anymore. So why should we bother wasting our efforts trying to get them into our workforce?
Let me interject one thing about that. One of the things I heard, and I think your points are very quite good, by the way. But I heard from several people, it's more than just they're not learning anything, which is obviously an issue, but the getting along. They just don't mix
Yes.
with regular folk. It's timeout rooms. I'm not going to take an hour for a Palestinian rally. I mean, these people they're not in the real world. Like, remember when they had the protest, and I forgot that whack job. I hope she's permanently unemployed. Talked about how she's under siege, and they need relief and access to the cafeteria. These people are out of their minds. I mean,
Yeah,
she could never work in a private job unless she was deprogrammed
these
or hospitalized.
the Ivy League students are no longer being prepared for the workforce. And it a big part of it is the socialization aspect of it. They cannot fit into a corporate culture. And businesses have come to realize over the last 15 years that their corporate culture is crucial to their success. So they don't want people that can't fit into their corporate cultures. But even more than that, the education system, Harvard keeps saying they've been making statements about, they're the best and the brightest as they go after the Trump administration. If Harvard is really only bringing in the best and the brightest, why in the past semester did they have to start offering remedial classes?
Oh, well, they got rid of no Victor Hansen. I love the guy, love him, right? And he said this is about 4 months ago. Time flies, Dr. Lopkin. And I was listening to him. He was on a radio talk show, and he was saying, and he has a PhD from a good school, Stanford, by the way, when it was a real school. And he's like, these are no longer elite institutions. He goes, they long ago traded academic, this is him, this is not me, academic excellence for DEI initiatives. They don't even, they don't even require the SAT because it's racist.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And the Harvard right now is suing the Trump administration because
Defunding.
they don't want the Trump administration to be able to put any conditions on the money that the government is giving them. They want the money, but they don't want to have to do what the government is asking of them.
Sounds like a 5-year-old kid.
Yes, but on the flip side, they've been more than happy to take foreign money and teach what those foreign governments and organizations wanted them to. So
that's exactly what they've done.
Right. They've been doing this the whole time. But when it's pro-America, oh, no, we can't do that. How brainwashed is that?
Can I interject something, doctor? And only the doctor has to comment on this. How do you like this? I'll go out on a limb that the longer time progresses, the more things can change. And especially in this high-tech world, social media world, it is not beyond reproach that Harvard could go from first class to baggage claim. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. It's all about branding. It's branding. That's all it is.
That is essentially what the Ivy League has been. It's a brand. And the actual product that they're turning out is not living up to that brand. So, yes, they can fall pretty far, pretty fast.
It happens to companies. You have great companies. Look at Cadillac. Cadillac, remember, hey, it's a Cadillac of soup.
Right.
It's a Cadillac of this. If you say this now, people, what? What are you talking about? Oh, you mean the product sucks? Yeah, so Harvard all is delusional, but it's not, it may not be the 5-star hotel. They got issues, as they say.
Yeah, no, they've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's no longer a 5-star institution. The question is, and we've started seeing a turnaround because in the last, I think it's 3 semesters or so, Ivy League enrollment has dropped dramatically. Students no longer want to spend all that money to go there now that they realize there's a good chance they won't be able to get a job and be saddled with all that debt.
Oh, well, especially the Palestinian rabble-rouser. I hope she has $300,000 and now is unemployable, as Mr. Wonderful said. Now, speaking of defunding, there's a bill, I believe it's moving through Congress actually started in the Senate, I believe, Kennedy, to defund NPR. I think that's long overdue. Do you agree?
Yeah, there's really no reason for public television and public radio anymore. There was when it started. In some markets, you had 3 TV stations and 1 newspaper. Maybe you had 2 radio stations, and that was it. Now, you've got 500 channels. You've got hundreds of news sources online. You've got podcasts. You've got social media.
You got Carnivore Radio.
Yes, there is really no point to the government funding PBS and NPR. And PBS in particular has been driving me up the wall lately because as I'm watching programming on Amazon Prime, PBS is advertising. If you can afford to advertise on Amazon Prime, you don't need government funding.
No, and also there's a little thing called merchandising. It's all bullshit. It's like actually funding Harvard. Okay, Harvard is a hedge fund that just happens to have classrooms. Their endowment's like $50 billion. I mean, what are you smoking? There's no reason at all to fund them. Okay, you can put a lot more money, and I would be for it, into community college doing STEM work, something that will actually improve the country and its capabilities and improve people's lives, not giving money to fund Palestinian whack jobs. How do you like that one? Brutal. It's a novel concept.
If we could take the money that is currently going to the Ivy League schools and focus it on training people
Yes.
in manufacturing, in STEM, in AI, in robotics,
Yes.
we could see a new golden age by doing that. There are right now approximately 17,000 open positions for welders. Now, people think, well, okay, how many jobs, could there possibly be welding? There are 17,000 open positions, and not just in construction. A lot of this is in the defense sector. We need welders to build submarines, to build airplanes.
And the money's good. There's like underwater welders would make well over $100,000. I think what the world does not need is another art history degree from an Ivy League school. Thank you very much. I think we're good.
There are manufacturing associate's degrees and certifications that are available at our local community colleges that when students graduate from these programs,
Immediate job.
for not only immediate job, the average starting salary is approximately 85,000. If they put in a little overtime, they're well over $100,000 a year. And this is a community college, so they're not saddled with 500 grand in debt.
I think colleges overall have a lot of splaining and thinking to do. But you look at also switching gears a little bit, you look at the Trump impact. With Biden, everything was at loggerhead. Nothing gets done. We can't do anything. It's too complicated. Blah, 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 blah. The Palestinian president basically called on Hamas to to abdicate control of Gaza and hand over their arms. Wow.
Yes, there have been multiple Palestinian protests in the Gaza Strip against Hamas. The Palestinians are starting to stand up to the terrorists. Unlike our students here, they actually know what's going on, and they knew that Biden could not be trusted to keep backing the Israelis. So they were in fear for their lives. Now they know there's going to be 4 years of absolute support for Israel to get rid of Hamas. Palestinians are now coming out and saying, okay, yes, please get rid of them.
Of course, because let's cut the shit. It's easy, and it's been out through history to blame the Jews for anything that could possibly happen. But in actuality, there is no reason, and there's some issues, of course. I got it. The Gaza Strip could have been an awesome place. It was Hamas it wasn't the Israelis. It was Hamas and the other terrorist groups that screwed over their own people.
Yeah, I mean, going back as far as the PLO, the terrorist organizations diverted funds from the Palestinians, diverted materials from the Palestinians. When they were supposed to be building infrastructure, they instead took that material to build tunnels and weapons.
Well, do you know who said that? He said RFK Jr. Basically, that's another reason why the Dems hate him, is he basically said that the Palestinians are the most spoiled people on the planet. And he talked about the per capita spending on the Palestinian population pales in comparison to what we spent in World War II rebuilding Europe. All for nothing.
Yes.
For nothing.
Because when we spent the money in Europe, it actually went to rebuilding.
There you go.
Here, any money being spent has been diverted to the terrorists.
Very good. Well, Dr. Lopkin, I missed you last week. Good to be back. and our listeners can voice their opinions and suggest things that they'd like us to talk about, topics and subject matters, correct?
Yes, let's hear what you have to say. What do you think of Trump's first 100 days? What do you think of the state of the Democratic Party? Any other issues you want us to look into and analyze? Let's hear your opinion. Go to the Carnivore Radio Facebook page, message us there. Go to xvadio.com/connect. You can message us there. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I thank you, Dr. Lopkin. And unlike 2 weeks ago, I will see you next week.
We'll see you then.